Hello Journey friends, and welcome back to this week's Along the Journey. Today I am outside one of the primary blood centers for the American Red Cross here in Winston-Salem. And I know that many of you have probably participated in a local blood drive, and you know the Red Cross in that way. But did you also know that they're involved in many other ways of helping others, of international relief, disaster relief, armed forces support, military families, active families, veterans volunteer at the VA hospital, and so many other ways. They deal with individuals and families who are in the midst of suffering, in the midst of crisis. In fact, in their mission statement, it says that they have a commitment to prevent and alleviate human suffering wherever it may be found. And in a lot of ways, that's with the physical suffering, mental, emotional suffering. Well, this week in Journey, Green Year, Section 5, Unit 4, we're going to be looking at suffering as well. We're going to be looking at the idea of really how do we alleviate the spiritual suffering, our stamina and our faith when we are experiencing suffering. And the question is really this: where is God in our suffering? Is He there with us? Why would He let us suffer? And we're going to see that His Word tells us in many places why it is. It's going to affirm that God is indeed present in all of our suffering, regardless of how difficult and how traumatic and how tragic it is, which it often is. But we're going to be seeing that in 2 Corinthians that we're told that in that suffering He is transforming us to this next degree of glory that we will experience. In Romans, we're going to see that He is developing the endurance that leads to character, which leads to hope through our suffering, Romans 5:3. Also in 1 Corinthians, we're going to be seeing that He is preparing an imperishable, powerful existence for us that will be raised in glory. Again, in Romans 8, we're going to be seeing that, and we're going to learn that our current suffering, Corinthians would say our momentary affliction, is not worth comparing to the future glory. And so our prayer is that we are strengthened in this week. Again, we know that many of these difficulties are so very tough. And we're going to find some strength, some encouragement, hopefully some words to know that our present calling is His glory and our future perspective is eternal glory. And so the three key takeaways this week for Journey. Number one, in John chapter 9, the very first few chapters, first few verses, you're going to be looking at the teaching of the blind man that Jesus heals. I want us to notice as we read that passage why it is that this man suffered in his blindness. I hope that that's revealing and insightful for you. The first 4 or 5 verses will tell you that in John chapter 9. Secondly, in the accountability, the question is this: when we endure suffering, when we're in the midst of our suffering, do we find that we often take a step forward or a step backwards in our relationship with God, in our faith and our trust in His provision and protection? Be honest. Share that honesty. Pray over that honesty. And then lastly, we continue in biblical literacy, and we're going to be looking at the 5 major prophets this week and learning those: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel, just sort of getting that into the full scope of what's going on from the Old Testament canon. And so this week, I do pray in your suffering that you will know the presence of God, that He will ease that suffering, give you comfort. We pray for healing and recovery from whatever that suffering is. We pray that we would be on the mission of alleviating and comforting those who suffer as well, and that we would be sharing the gospel and the good news in order to enable those to suffer in greater comfort, in knowing the security of that eternal perspective. And until then, maybe I will see you across the donation room giving blood along the journey. Blessings, friends.